Hello and welcome to my video tutorial series over the principles of business management. And in this video we will be going over the planning. As you recall from another of my videos, planning is the first stage in our overall management process. You might also hear this called as the 4 management functions, and these 4 functions of our management process are as following. Planning is our first stage, then organizing, leading, and controlling. All of these functions affect each other, and they're ongoing, and they're performed simultaneously. Planning is going to be defined as the setting of our goals and deciding how to achieve those goals. Now, planning also involves ensuring the plans are linked to our overall business strategy. Planning is also coping with the uncertainty by formulating future courses of action to achieve our specific results. When it comes to the planning function, we should think about the first part of that, the plan. A plan is just a document that outlines how goals are going to be met. An example of a plan that you will probably come across is a business plan. And a business plan is just a document that outlines a proposed organization's goals, the strategy for achieving those goals, and the standards for which we are going to use to measure the success of achieving those goals. Now, I want to focus on one of the words I just used in talking about the business plan, and that's the word strategy. A strategy is a large-scale action plan that sets the direction for your organization. And we have a whole discipline that we can use these strategies in, that's called strategic management. And this is just a process that involves managers from all parts of an organization in the formulation and the implementation of its strategies and strategic goals. From top managers to middle managers to those line managers, everyone's involved. Now, this formulation and implementation of those strategic goals all derives from the organization's mission and vision. Now, an organization should adopt planning and strategic management for 3 basic reasons. First, they can provide direction and momentum. Secondly, they can encourage new ideas in the organization. And above all, they can develop a sustainable competitive advantage over the competition. Now, a strategy, or even more accurately, a strategic plan, is going to help set those longer-term goals within an organization and usually looks at the organization as a whole rather than through a tunnel vision view. Strategic plans generally are reconsidered every year due to the ever-changing business conditions and the competitive environment. Well, I just mentioned 2 terms that are very important here, and I want to talk about that a little bit as well here. And planning is going to consist of translating an organization's mission and vision into those objectives we want to meet. The organization's purpose is expressed as a mission statement, and what it hopes to become is expressed as a vision statement. A value statement is going to express what our company stands for and its core priorities, the values that its employees embody within the organization, and what its products contribute to the overall world. So mission, vision, and values are very important in understanding within your organization. Once again, that mission statement, that's going to be what our purpose is as an organization. And the vision statement, well, this is just simply what we hope to become. And of course, I've talked about values in other lessons, but those values are what we stand for. Now, using our organization's mission, vision, and values as our foundation, managers are going to conduct strategic planning, then our tactical planning, followed up by our operational planning. Well, let's take a look at this in our strategic plan. First, we're going to establish those mission and vision and values. Then we're going to assess the current reality of the business. We're going to move then on to formulating our overall grand strategy and what are going to be our strategic, tactical, and operational plans for the organization. Once we formulated those, we're going to develop and implement our strategies. Lastly, after we've implemented the strategies, we're going to maintain our strategic control. Now, some modern companies are very successful because they've been able to unleash the spirit of strategic innovation. And strategy innovation is just that ability to reinvent the basis of competition within existing industries. This is where bold new business models are created that put incumbents on the defensive. An example of this is what Amazon.com was to Borders bookstores. As Amazon was founded in July 1994, it simply started as an online marketplace for books. And that online model wasn't quite adopted by Borders. Well, then Amazon continued to grow to surpass its competitor. It, as I said, started off as an online marketplace for books, but then chose to expand and start to sell electronics, software, video games, furniture, apparel, now food, everything you want. People usually go to Amazon.com as one of their shopping places to look for things, not just book. And then another example of strategy innovation in works is where Uber came about and how that has affected the traditional taxi cab business. Or we'll just take Apple as an example. Apple was still competing in the personal computer market, but then in the 21st century and around 2007 they said, you know what, let's expand. Let's upend the entire industry with an introduction of the smartphone into the market known as the iPhone. And then that set them apart. And that became a niche for them to be able to make profit from. And you must have a competitive advantage to be able to continue the success of your organization and continue the life of the organization. That is the competitive advantage. The ability of an organization to produce goods or services much more effectively than its competitors do, thereby outperforming them. Now, you must have a sustainable competitive advantage, and this is going to occur when your organization is able to get ahead and then stay ahead in 4 areas. Those 4 areas are pretty simple. You need to be ahead in being responsive to your customers. If your customers aren't happy, they're going to become someone else's customers. You need to be innovative. That's the second way that you need to get ahead and stay ahead and have that sustainable competitive advantage. Be innovative. Don't just rely on what you've always done. And then you need to be, you should sustain your quality. Make sure that you just don't become complacent with your quality. Make sure that you are continuously looking at quality. And then you need to be effective. So make sure that one of those areas that you're staying ahead in is your effectiveness as an organization. Well, the purpose of planning is to set a goal, as I mentioned earlier. And then once you have those goals, you move into your operational plan and then an action plan. I said the word goal a few times, and I just thought I should define that. A goal, which could also be, you might hear the term objective. They're really relatively the same thing in business. But a goal is just a specific commitment to achieve a measurable result within a stated period of time. We're saying what we need to do in a certain amount of time and how are we going to measure that objective or that goal. When you're setting these goals, they can either be short-term goals or they can be long-term goals, and then they're connected through a means-end chain. The purpose of planning, as I said, is to set those goals. Well, I want to talk about some specific goals and where they're at and who performs those. And the first one that I'll talk about is that of the strategic goals. And these are going to be set by and for top management, and the focus is going to be on the objectives for the organization as a whole. From there, we look at our tactical goals, and these are set by and for those middle managers and focus on the actions that are needed to achieve the higher level strategic goals. And then as we move on down, we see that we have the operational goals, and these are going to be set by and for those first line managers and are concerned with the short-term matters associated with realizing those tactical goals that are going to feed into those strategic goals. Now, goals should be followed by the operational plans, which turn strategic plans into actionable short-term goals and action plans, which define the course of action needed to achieve our stated goals. You might hear the term standing plans, and these are plans that are developed for activities that occur repeatedly over a period of time. Some of these standing plans include policies and procedures and rules within your organization. And then you might have those single-use plans that are developed for activities that are not likely to be repeated in the future, such as different programs or projects within the organization. Typically in organizations, you're going to hear the term SMART goals. The SMART goals stands for specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, targeted goals. So these goals, I'll break them down a little bit and what each of these stand for in these SMART goals. But when we look at the realm of specific goals, these should be stated in specific rather than very vague terms. The goal that stated, as many planes are possible should arrive on time. Well, that's just way too general that we're saying, as many of the planes possible, they should arrive on time. It's just way too general. You want something more specific, such as the goal that 90% of planes should arrive within 15 minutes of their scheduled arrival time is much more specific, and it gives us part of what that next term is, measurable. Whenever possible, your goals should be measurable or quantifiable. There should be some way to measure the degree to which a goal has been achieved. And then your goals should be attainable. That's the A in the SMART goals. The goals should be challenging, of course, but above all, they should be realistic so that you can attain achieving those goals. It may be best to set the goals that are quite ambitious so as to challenge people to meet their high standards. So if you're creating some SMART goals for your subordinates, set those standards a little bit higher so that your employees are not going to feel like the goals are so easily achievable that they're not worth much effort. But your goals should always be achievable within the scope of time, equipment, and the financial support and resources that are available to you or to your organization. The R in SMART goals stands for results oriented. Only a few goals should be chosen, say 5 or so for any work unit, and they should be results oriented. They should support the organization's overall vision. And then the T in the SMART goals stands for targeted dates. These are goals should specify the targeted dates, or more commonly known as deadline dates, when they are to be attained. It's unrealistic to expect an airline to improve its on-time arrivals by 10% just, from one day to the next. But you could set some type of target date, say that it could achieve that 10% over 3 to 6 month period. That gives us a targeted date, and it's much more attainable for the airline to achieve because now they have more time other than 24 hours. So SMART goals are used in nearly every organization, and when you're creating those goals, keep those in mind. Make sure your goals are specific, they're measurable, they are attainable with what resources you have, they're results oriented, and that they have a realistic date of expectation for its deadline. Now, another term that's very important here is management by objectives. MBO is how we usually refer to this in organizations. And management by objectives is just a 4-step process for motivating your employees. And it's a technique for setting those goals. The overall purpose of management by objectives is to motivate rather than control your subordinates within your organization. So management by objectives is going to involve four different things. It's going to, first of all, have jointly setting objectives with the subordinates. 2, you need to develop some action plans together. 3rd, you should periodically review the performance. And 4, giving performance appraisal and rewards. So a quick overview of those 4 pieces to management by objectives. You as the manager and your employee should jointly set the objectives for that said employee. As a manager, you should develop the action plans. And 3rd, manager and the employee periodically should sit down to review the employee's performance. And lastly, you as a manager should make a performance appraisal and reward the employee according to those stated results. And then when you're setting these objectives with the employee, remember there are 3 types of objectives that we use in management by objectives. We have performance objectives, behavioral objectives, and learning objectives. In our performance objectives, we express the objective as an outcome or some type of end result, as in, like reduce the quality defects by 10%. That's an example of a performance objective. Then we have our behavioral objectives that express the objective as the behavior that's needed to achieve some type of outcome. As an example, a behavioral objective is that you learn the basics of Microsoft project software by the end of quarter 3 in such and such year. And then we have our learning objectives. These express our objective in terms of acquiring knowledge or competencies, like learn how to create a pivot table in Microsoft Excel to use in our sales forecasting to beat and compare with our competitors. So when you're creating those objectives, just remember there are 3 types of objectives: the performance, behavioral, and learning objectives. Now let's move on to talk about goal cascading. And goal cascading, or the cascading of goals, however you prefer to say it, this just seeks to ensure that the higher level goals are communicated and aligned with the goals at the next levels down in our organization's overall hierarchy. This cascading process ends when all the individuals have a set of goals that support the overall strategic goals, and we just talked about the strategic goals here not that long ago. But that is simply goal cascading. And we have a 4-step cycle that we go through, and this is called the planning control cycle. And this helps us as managers keep in control to make sure the unit is headed in the correct direction that we want it to go in. This cycle is going to be as follows, as I've stated here. First of all, we need to make the plan. We need to formulate that overall plan. Then we need to carry out that plan. If we're going to spend the time to formulate that plan, obviously we need to go through that plan. The 3rd step here is to control the direction by comparing our results within that plan. And then we're going to move on to the 4th step, which is controlling the direction by taking some type of corrective action in one of 2 ways. Either by correcting deviations in our plan that are being carried out, or taking a look back and improving our future plans. So that's the way we have 2 different options there. But as simple as it sounds, that's it. That's the planning control cycle. Create a plan, carry it out, make sure that you can do some type of measuring where you're comparing your results, and then based on those results, take some type of corrective action when needed, either by improving on your plans for the future or deviating from the plan that's being carried out to make sure that you're achieving those goals. Well, that is it for this discussion on the planning phase in our management process. And understanding planning as one of the 4 management functions as part of that management process is critical in being a more effective manager. And I hope that you will take this information and some of these topics and go research some more on your own so that you can become a much more effective and efficient manager and understand what all is entailed in the principles of management. Thank you, everyone.